Excuse me?
Sorry,
This is Dr. John B.
What is it below shelter in place before he says it's not?
He's not armed. I promise you he's not armed and he's not armed. I really just
Hi, I didn't miss it, did I? The run through?
You look nice.
Thank you. Hi, how are you?
Girl, we'll talk.
Yes, we absolutely will.
How are you?
I'm doing good.
You look nice. I was like, oh, maybe this is me stepping my game up. Let me put on some.
Okay, what I'm not about to
Look, let me do this to my locks.
I said what I'm not about to do is look like, I've been in quarantine for the last, what I mean?
Not just on a hat. Like,
let me tell you what did it for me. Were you on the webinar with the 3 Black ladies from T3 Innovatives?
No, but I wish I was.
When I tell you them Black ladies, and they were older Black ladies, face beat, they had their wigs on, they were like, no, you never gonna catch us slipping. And so I took my cue. I said, I got you ladies. They not gonna catch me slipping neither. Yeah.
Now I'm inspired.
They were sitting in their house.
Oh, we're recording. I didn't know we were recording.
You know what? Hey.
That's fine.
Hey, if the ladies from T3 Innovatives are watching this, if they get to see this, I said, yes, ma'am.
Right?
Oh, no quarantine faces. Oh, no quarantine faces here either. Or hairstyles. Right, we about to moisturize these.
I'm just trying to put on some Carmex, but good evening, everybody.
Hi, Angela. Hi, Samantha. How are you both doing today?
Hi, Ian. How are you?
We're good.
Sorry, me and Angela are just used to being on these calls together at least like 4 times a week.
Okay.
So
this is my virtual call buddy.
Oh, nice. That's cool.
This is the first time I had camera. I usually don't come in with camera, so.
I like to say there are days when I'm Zoomable and there are days when I'm not Zoomable. Today, obviously, given the nature of what we're doing, I made sure I was Zoomable. But yeah, there's some days where I'm like, you can hear me, but you're just gonna, some days you may just get my smiling face, and that's okay,
That is an awful photo, by the way. Like, I need a new headshot, but let me not detract from the purpose of the pre-call.
No worries. I think we're still waiting for, I know Camille said she was finishing some things up. I think we're waiting for Matt, and let's see who else.
I shift my my setup around here. Normally my calls aren't this late in the evening, so the light is normally behind me. Now
that's some good lighting.
Yeah, now it's normally in front of me, but now it's behind me, and it's gonna throw off everything. So yeah.
We can just share my screen. We don't gotta show me. Ian, I have links. Should I send them to you, or will I be able to share?
So what I would say is, I think just to keep this like in real time, I think if you want to share the links either while you're talking about them or right once you're like right after you're done speaking, I think that would work fine. And then I can also share them out after the meeting.
Because I'll be showing the COVID-19 page, and I think that's about it. And maybe just the login page to the app.
Yeah, any detail you want to go into about Startup Space, about all the different resources and mentorship opportunities, and just all the different things that the platform has to offer, and then different ways that you can assist in kind of your knowledge of the small business support and entrepreneurial support network in Detroit.
Sam's really good for that too. That's why I'm so happy to see that you're here.
Yes.
Sam, just giving your work in the ecosystem as well.
Okay, so I'm not gonna talk about. I'm gonna leave Startup Space to you.
No, I know. I'm talking about your knowledge of the ecosystem building that's currently happening.
Yeah.
Just because you work with James and like that perspective is so key right now. Like that's how I'm learning.
We're learning together.
Yes.
But it's a ever-changing landscape. So yeah, we're all learning together.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Sam, I'm familiar with Projects and People and James's work a little bit, but I'm not as familiar with you or your role within the organization or what kind of the things you'd like to talk about tonight. So could you just give me like a brief overview of, okay, awesome. Thanks.
Well, I always have a hard time introducing myself as either Sam or Samantha. I think I'm going to go with Samantha tonight.
Okay.
I'm the engagement and project coordinator for Projects and People. You said you're already familiar, but I'll just run through, that Projects and People is a economic development firm. We specialize in engagement and building ecosystems for small businesses. One of the things that I'm going to highlight tonight is our work with NEI, particularly the storytelling campaign in Good Co. I'll probably give you guys a link for that. It's a storytelling and inspiring campaign for small business owners, whether they are, no matter what phase of business they're in, whether they're in startup phase, in the trenches phase, been doing it for a long time phase, or even to the people who wanna start a business. We have a living resource database there on the In Good Co website where people can go and get connected with the resources they need, whether it's funding, maybe at the beginning, maybe it's some type of accounting, maybe it's some type of branding, website development. We have all those things there. Let me see. Maybe I'll tie it back to, because we also helped develop the Startup Space page, the COVID-19 resources page with Startup Space with Angela. So I might touch on that just for a split second, but most of the time I'll probably just be talking about In Good Co.
Okay, that sounds good. That sounds great. And I know Camille is going to be touching on kind of e-commerce in terms of how businesses can either transfer online or enhance their current e-commerce presence. And I talked to Matt a little bit earlier today. And of course, because you've been involved, he's been on those calls Saturdays with James and I'm blanking on the other two, Kim and Ethan. Yes, thank you. And Ethan. So just kind of bringing some of that knowledge that he had on the Saturday calls to this meeting. I'm hoping he's going to share the Excel doc that he has too for budgeting. I thought that was a really, really cool, unique resource that he put together. And then I'm just going to be doing kind of like a general overview and update of the ways that we're supporting our businesses on Max. So we've got a hotline that we've set up. It's manned Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And then we're also doing like direct phone outreach to businesses that we have contact information for, just seeing how they're doing. We have a survey as well. So, and as soon as resources become available, I pretty much share them on our MABA Facebook page. So also making sure that folks are liking that, following that. We also have a text alert system. So if folks text 55469, they can sign up, and we post on there at least a couple times a month with different things that we're doing or different resources for businesses. And then with some of our other partners, and I think I shared it with you, Angela, we've been compiling a small business resource spreadsheet, just a Google Doc, very informal. But again, as things become available, I've been trying to add it in there. And then did you both see the email that I think it was sent out through BizGrid, but it was branded with the DEGC's letterhead, but more resources that they sent? Yeah. Okay. So that was one thing that I kind of wanted to talk through, because different pieces of that tied into different things that I figured each of us were going to talk about, like and I'm probably not getting the exact naming of it right, but basically the e-commerce boot camp that the city launched today, I'm like, oh, that would make a lot of sense for Camille to talk about, with her talking about businesses transitioning to e-commerce. But also, if either of you in your roles have been working on putting that together, can speak to that a little bit more, anything, feel free. So I gave each of us 15 minutes to talk, but we can also we can kind of say like our high level points if we want, and then have more of a conversation with the audience. So I left the last 40 minutes for Q&A, but if it kind of flows differently, I'm open to that as well. But and then the only two other things I was going to cover is we are in the phase 2 of our Mac Avenue improvement plan, doing some like planning and engagement work on Mac in between Cadieux and Maross, because originally our footprint for MABA and for our work on Mac was between Connor and Cadieux. So this is expanding that footprint, supporting even more businesses, and continuing to build on partnerships that we had with Grosse Pointe Park and the city of Grosse Pointe, and now with Grosse Pointe Farms. And then we also have our annual meeting coming up this Thursday. So just kind of announcing that, making sure that folks are aware so they can learn about all the different things that ECN is doing, even outside of our work on Mac. I think that's it on my end. I'm going to give Matt a call really quick to see if he wanted to hop on and just talk about what he was going to go through real quick. And then I'll text Camille as well and see if she wants to hop on and talk through what she was.
I'm going to join really quick from another device. So
Okay.
just to let you know, it's me, and we're not being hacked.
Okay, no worries. Were you guys on the DEGC call that got hacked?
I heard about it, and I was like, prayer hands, because that was just so, I don't know why people do what they do, but it's like, it's a lot of things happening. So it's good that Zoom was reactive in that they were able to have like, okay, here's what you can do to lessen that from happening.
Right.
And it's good that we're aware, since like we host these calls. So we always tell people, about the waiting rooms and the passcodes and everything like that. So that's really good. And I even have like a little cheat sheet that I made from like 3 resources, like trying to just curate all that information together to make it easy and digestible for anyone to use, whether they're a resource partner, an entrepreneur, maybe a hairstylist. I'm like, here you go. Here's how we can lessen Zoom bombing. But yeah, when that happened, I've seen a lot more Facebook Live type of town halls and webinars, which has been like super helpful. I think just have like a diversity of how do we talk online. So, I do have 2 quick questions. Can I screen share?
Yes, most definitely. Camille is going to be so I'll be moderating, I guess, and like front facing, and Camille's going to more be moderating behind the scenes. So she'll just have to like click through and allow you to share your screen, but she's more than able or willing to do that. And then what was your other question? And
then given everything about Startup Space, is there anything I should like really emphasize or like focus on?
So I think the thing that I really liked from the call that I was on last week and the call that I was on with just you and David specifically was some of the mentorship and connection opportunities, just leveraging, the different resources across the ecosystem, because I think a lot of our business owners have tapped into maybe 1 or 2, but they haven't necessarily, they haven't been on a platform that gives them like the full breadth of everything that's there. So I would say, any way that you can like just talk about the breadth of different resources that are available and the connection opportunities, I would say. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. Hey, Matt, how's it going?
Hey, everyone. Sorry, I was running a little bit late there.
No worries. Would you mind just sharing with us briefly kind of what you're going to be talking about this evening? I know we talked about it earlier today, but just to give the other panelists, we're here with Samantha and Angela. Angela is with Startup Space, and Samantha is with Projects and People. And then Camille is, of course, with ECN, and she'll be joining us in just a couple minutes.
Yeah, no, very, very honored to be with all of you tonight. I have a really diverse accounting and finance background. So I planned on talking about managing cash flow, dealing with your stakeholders, your landlords, lenders, vendors, how to identify cash shortfall and creative ways of trying to plug it, and then just open it up to any other finance or accounting questions people might have. So hopefully that aligns nicely with everything that all the rest of you plan on talking about.
Most definitely, yeah. And are you able to share the budgeting spreadsheet that I know you've shared a couple of times in the Saturday calls?
Yeah, absolutely. If you just give me the nod and I can share my screen and I'll pop open the file.
Okay, that sounds great. Yeah, if you, so I was explaining to Angela and Samantha, I'm kind of like the front end moderator, and then Camille is kind of like doing all the back end behind the scenes. So she'll just have to approve to share your screen, which she's willing to do. So yeah.
Okay, cool. I'll open up that file right now so it's ready when the show gets on the road.
Okay. Yeah, and the other thing we were talking about, so I know we talked about a little bit on our call, the Invest Detroit landlord kind of like relief
Rent
program.
relief.
Yeah, that Invest Detroit is launching, and that's specific for our businesses because it's only in the strategic neighborhood fund area, so on Mac between Alter and Ross. So it doesn't include our full footprint, but it does include a pretty big part of it, which is exciting. But we were also just talking through the resource list too that I sent out to you guys. It was like an hour or two ago from the DGC. So yeah, just let's see if Camille wants to hop on and join us real quick.
We missed you on Saturday, Matt.
On Saturday?
Yeah, because there was no call. The small life chat got canceled.
Yeah, we figure we're gonna do every 2 weeks these days. It's I had a friend of mine. She called last week the week of acceptance.
It has been, I can say, even with me, it was a fork in the road where, there you have to just accept what is and learn to roll with the punches now. And this is where we are.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the first couple weeks were just whirlwind, like crazy, and then you're kind of like slowly but surely getting used to it. The next thing you know, it's going to be like Stockholm syndrome, and we're like not going to want to go out the door because we're in love with our captor. We're going to be
Yes.
That is very true. I'm a facial expression person, so I'm over here like feeling everything you're saying. Like, I get it.
Yeah, and it's so hard I know for me, it's exhausting, running here, trying to pull these resources, trying to get these resources, trying to get to these resources before they close, and then get to these. And then it's just like, oh my God, like, it's too much.
It's all right here. It's all right here.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I need to go outside and take a walk.
It's too much. It's too much.
Yeah, I definitely
sending stuff to Angela in the middle of the night. Make sure you put this on this bit. And it's like, you know what?
I'm like, fam. Like I said, we'll connect. But
I know.
Sam and her team just been integral in helping me bring the page to life. And I'll just speak to that when I talk as well.
That sounds
all
great.
Your work is being seen, Sam. All your work. Starter Space is like literally Angela, Sam, James, Aaron,
yes.
Everybody.
Yes.
This is community page, so.
I know.
So we got a couple minutes left. I just want to give Camille a moment if she wants to share a little bit about what she's going to be talking about during the webinar. And then if everyone wants to, if you need to get water, coffee, tea, use the restroom, anything like that before we get started, we can go ahead and do that. So Camille, whenever you're ready. Oh, she might be in the middle of something.
Hey everybody, it's Camille. Sorry I've been muted. I was working on some last minute things I wanted to talk about today. So as far as my presentation discussing e-commerce, both transitioning to an e-commerce platform and enhancing your e-commerce platform, I'm going to focus on three pieces. The first being the benefits of having an e-commerce platform as a business, regardless of what services or products you provide. Some of the top e-commerce platforms, the ones I'll highlight today will be Squarespace and Shopify, since for me, I think they give businesses, regardless of their experience with using websites or using e-commerce, like a really easy to use package of all those things in one. I'll also share some tips in terms of how to kind of drive engagement towards your e-commerce website, specifically looking at email marketing and leveraging social media. And then finally, I'll talk a bit about how businesses right now are using e-commerce platforms to kind of pivot their business models during COVID. So specifically looking at how you're seeing a lot of restaurants and bakeries or things of that nature that are almost serving as, small grocers and, meal kit and prep providers. And then also looking at how a lot of individuals in the service industry are offering things such as gift cards or prepayments for services in the future as a way to kind of continue bringing in revenue through their e-commerce platforms.
Awesome. And one other thing too, I can touch on it, but I wanted to give you an opportunity if you did you see the kind of, I'll call it the e-commerce boot camp that the city, I'm sorry if you mentioned that, I didn't hear it, but were you planning on touching on that as well?
Yes, I did forget that. I'll also touch on some resources that are out there for small businesses in terms of building up their kind of digital presence. So I was going to mention that that accelerator, as well as some of the resources that TechTown provides for small businesses around that, and the Build Institute.
That's
And then
great.
point people. Oh,
Yeah.
Sorry.
I want to quickly add, I have all that information on the site that I'm going to show. So Startup Space, don't know if you heard about it. Got the fund, the digital, Detroit. So thank you all for all the information. Keep sending it, and I'll be sure to talk about that too. So.
Okay, awesome. That's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So then I'll just point to what you say.
Yeah, Camille and Angela, I probably should have done an introduction already, but you two should definitely connect, because even outside of the work that we're doing on Mac, I think some of the things that you each are working on, there's some chance for, or opportunities for partnership there. So
Yeah, awesome, for sure. Okay, so I am about to start broadcasting the webinar, which will allow people to join, and I'm also going to connect it with Facebook Live.
okay,
So we can officially start.
cool. All right, good evening, everyone. We're just getting set up here, so we'll get started in the next couple of minutes. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat before we begin. But other than that, just hang tight and yeah, we'll get started in the next couple of minutes. Thank you. All right, it is 6:05, so I think we can go ahead and begin. If I could just get a thumbs up from all of our panelists that you're ready to get started. Awesome. So thanks everyone for joining us so far, and I'm sure we'll have other folks joining us throughout the webinar. You are on the second of the bi-monthly Mack Avenue Business Association meeting that we have through the Eastside Community Network. So we support businesses on Mack in this way between Connor and Maross. We have a variety of different panelists with different backgrounds here to share various resources, ways to get connected into the entrepreneurial ecosystem throughout Detroit and the region. So we're really excited to have Angela Williams from Startup Space, Matt Rolling from Wayne State University's accounting department, Camille Johnson, our development officer here at ECN, and Samantha Hall, the community and engagement coordinator with projects and people. So thank you all for joining us this evening. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to our first panelist, which is going to be Angela with Startup Space. Angela, whenever you're ready, feel free to begin. And thanks again for joining us.
Sure. Good evening, and thank you, Ian. Hi, everybody. I'm just going to share my screen to just provide a little bit of context to what I am talking about. And Ian or Camille, if you can let me know when you can see my screen. How are we looking? Good? All right, great.
Yeah, you should be able to see it now.
Okay, awesome. Good evening, everyone. My name is Angela Williams. As Ian said, I'm the Regional Director of Customer Experience at Startup Space. And Startup Space is a national ecosystem building platform. So we are in numerous cities, and we are here in Detroit because the New Economy Initiative brought us here early in 2019. So our goal with NEI is to basically build a robust ecosystem in Southeast Michigan. So we started this work in 2019, and early in April, we decided to create a COVID-19 resource page. So the screen that you're looking at here is the Southeast Michigan COVID-19 resources page. As of today, this page has received 4,200 visits. And this work was definitely brought about with projects and people and 313 Creative, who are all part of the NEI contractor group that meets on a weekly basis. So right here, what you'll see on this page is resources available for small businesses and entrepreneurs. And this page is kept up to date and is easy to navigate. So what I want to first draw your attention to is the grants and loan application links. So as you can see, we have a Tech Startup Stabilization Fund, as well as a few other funds that are active, and you can apply to them today by simply following the links. What you can also find on this page are first step resources. So these resources range from everything from office hours to different programs you can join, and a lot of things are dedicated to COVID-19 on this page. So for example, you can find Digital Detroit, which is a program put on by the City of Detroit and the Quicken Loans Community Fund to help Detroit businesses start up their websites. What you'll also find on this page is upcoming events. So you'll see things such as the Teletown Hall, events with the City of Detroit, events with the other local organizations, SCORE, and many more. And all these events can be filtered by the filter search right here. So when you scroll down to the page towards the bottom, you'll also see recommended content. So you'll find inspiration from Inga Co Detroit, which is a campaign run by NEI and other contractors in that group to get inspiration going to get businesses started. What you'll also see is assistance from Global Detroit and other helpful handouts. And again, the goal of this page is to be a one-stop shop for everything as people are navigating through this crisis. And this is a community, and this page was also built by the community. So this page wasn't built just by me. It was built by other contractors in the region. And we are also using an open link to source information. So Ian, if you could let me know if you could see my screen. Yes?
Yes, yep.
Okay, awesome. So this link is a Google Sheet, and the Google Sheet is used to source information throughout the region. So as you can see, if you have any resources that come online, you can add them here, any knowledge of grants and funding, events, and many more. And these resources are looked at by 313 Creative, myself, and Projects and People. And we also have Sam Hall on the call, who is from Projects and People, who can help to speak more about this triage process, in which we look at all the resources added here and add them to the page. You can also email them to me at angelawilliams@startupspace.com. Also on the page, you'll be able to see, I lost my link. I will open up right here. So here is an insight into what Startup Space, the platform looks like. So initially I showed the COVID-19 page, which is powered by this platform. So what you'll see on the page, which I did not show earlier, is a video from myself welcoming you to the page and also describing all the resources that we have on here. And lastly, I would like to highlight that the first thing you can do to continue this conversation is, one, share this page. It's free. It's an open access resource link. So all you need is the link to go to this page. And this page link is www.startupspace.app/NEI/recovery. And I have a chat. Oh, yes. Thank you, Ian, for putting it in the chat function. And once you create an account on the page, and again, everything is free, you'll be able to get access to a whole bunch of resources such as mentoring. We have tons of Detroit Score mentors who have already created accounts and are here to help you navigate this crisis. And there's also many more other tools, and I'm available to jump on a call or set up a FaceTime to help you navigate through this tool. It can be intimidating at first, but I am here to help, and you have a whole team and community behind you. So 3 takeaways. 1, visit the open access resource page, so this page that I'm showing right here. 2, create an account. And 3, share, because we are a community and we're here to help. All right, Ian, I think that's it.
All right, great. Thanks so much for sharing about Startup Space and all the great resources that you guys have collected and continue to collect and synthesize on your page. It's really exciting to kind of have that like one-stop shop, because I know different organizations have been putting together their own pages and things, but to kind of have just about everything in one place is really exciting. So thanks to you and Samantha for your work on that. Since we do have a little bit of time, if anyone did want to ask a question, you can go ahead and drop that in the chat. We'll just wait maybe 30 seconds to a minute. If anyone's asked a question, we'll go ahead and answer that. And if not, we'll move on to our next panelist. Okay, not seeing any questions at this point, so let's go ahead and move on to our next panelist, and that is me actually. So I just wanted to share with you all a couple of different things that we're doing as the Eastside Community Network and as kind of stewards of the Mack Avenue Business Association. So just to identify some of the different resources, one of the main things we've done is set up hotlines specifically for our residents, for youth, and then we do have one specifically dedicated to our small businesses on Mac between Connor and Moross. That number is 313-364-9439, and I'm going to go ahead and drop that in the chat right now as well. And then another thing that we've been doing too is doing direct phone outreach, so actually calling the businesses. So some of you likely will have gotten a call. If you haven't, you will likely get one in the next week just to check in, see how you're doing. We also have a small business survey. I'll go ahead and get the link for that and drop it in the chat as well. And then one place that I've really been trying to post all the different resources as they become available is our Mack Avenue Business Association page. So if you haven't, go ahead and like MABA Detroit on Facebook. like I said, for up-to-the-minute information. Another resource we have at our disposal for sending out information is our text alerts. So if you text 55469, you can sign up for our MABA text alerts. And then with some of our partners in the entrepreneurial ecosystem, we have been putting together our small business resource spreadsheet, kind of similar to what Angela and Sam have been compiling, though probably not quite as comprehensive and certainly not as vetted. So I might talk about maybe just transitioning that over and directing folks that way in the future, but it is something that is still available. It's actually pinned to the top of our Mac Avenue Business Association Facebook page. You can find that there. And then there are several resources that the Detroit Economic Growth Corporation sent out that I sent out to you all this afternoon. So we could walk through some of those, but I'd also, if you want to go ahead and pull those up, and then if you have any questions about each of the specific resources, I know Camille is going to touch on the e-commerce boot camp that they have available. Another thing that would be important to mention too is the Invest Detroit landlord grant program. So if you are a landlord within the Mac Hadju strategic neighborhood footprint, so that would be on Mac between Alter and Ross, you are eligible to apply for that grant program. So definitely check those out. Both of them have to be in by the end of this week. So I'll let Camille elaborate a little bit more on the e-commerce boot camp. And then we are still continuing on with our Mac Avenue Improvement Plan Phase 2. So that's the footprint in between Hadju and Maross. We're finding different ways to potentially do digital engagement, to send out some postcards and things like that. So I will go ahead and send information about that once it is finalized to you all, so you know when that's happening. And we do have a survey that goes along with that particular planning study as well. So I'll go ahead and share that out when we have updated our outreach plan for the both digital and mailing outreach that we're planning to do for that. And we do also have our ECN annual meeting coming up this Thursday. Camille has been planning that for the last several weeks. So I'll also let her share a few more details about that. In particular, we have some great speakers, Dr. Abdul Saeed and former Councilwoman Joanne Watson and State Senator Stephanie Chang. So, and it'll be a little bit more comprehensive than this to give you a better idea of all the different ways we are working in and serving Detroit's East Side. So with that, I'll open it up for questions in the chat, and I'll share some of those resources that I just mentioned. And then if there are no questions, I will go ahead and turn it over to Camille to talk about e-commerce. So go ahead and drop your questions in the chat. And if there are none, we'll go on from there. Thanks for adding the hotline, Camille.
No problem.
I don't disagree with you, Matt. Something to plan for our next webinar. If anyone has any song recommendations or anything, that's not a bad idea. I haven't seen that yet, but I love it. I love it. Okay, just one more resource, and then I'll go ahead and pass it off to Camille. Last opportunity for questions before we move on. Okay. With that, I will turn it over to Camille Johnson, who is ECM's development officer and is going to tell us a little bit more about e-commerce, both transitioning and enhancing your presence online. whenever you're ready, go ahead, Camille.
Awesome. Thank you, Ian. Hi, my name is Camille Johnson. I am the Interim Development Officer for ECN, but I am also, and I guess kind of my side life right now, a consultant that works with small businesses and nonprofits on different areas of strategic planning and organizational development. And a big area that I work on with a lot of these organizations and businesses is marketing and kind of digital engagement and communications. And a big part of that is e-commerce. So to roll it back, because I know that we have businesses that are on different levels of kind of digital engagement right now, e-commerce is basically leveraging websites and different digital platforms to sell your products and services online. Typically, it's done through a website, and it just provides a nice digital virtual way to sell your products. E-commerce is especially important right now during this pandemic because our in-person interactions have been so limited. If you're not an essential business, your interactions have been limited even more, and this directly affects your ability to sell your products and services. So the benefits of having an e-commerce platform is that, first of all, you're able to drive engagement all of the time, whether that's in person or virtual, because you have what I like to call a digital home. So your website is where your business lives. It's where someone can learn more information about you and your services or products, where they can learn about your brand and find out the different ways that they can engage with you. So for today, I'd like to focus on two platforms. Those are Shopify and Squarespace. Both of these services are really great for businesses of all types because they basically package in website development and kind of e-commerce in a nice one-stop shop that is super easy to use if you've never built a website, if you've never done e-commerce. They basically package a website up for you, connect it to whatever your platform is for, processing payment for your services, and you're able to be up and running selling your products on the internet. I suggest these platforms for most of my clients in any business or organization that I talk to because they are so easy to use. They also have great customer service, which is really important when you're doing e-commerce, especially when you're new to it, because it helps you in figuring out the best way to process transactions, helping you figure out how to kind of put your products on your website in a way that will help you target people. I also really like these platforms because they allow you to do another thing that is really important, which is communicate your products and your services on your website via email and social media. So both Shopify and Squarespace, in addition to one, serving as a website, two, having a built-in kind of e-commerce software and platform, three, they make communication super easy. So a lot of the time, think about when you sign up for like HomeDepot.com, if you order something, you usually sign up for a newsletter. And what happens after that, after you make a purchase, is that they will continue to send you sales based on what you purchased. They'll promote different opportunities and new products to you. And so essentially, these platforms allow you to do the same thing for your business. So if you own a local restaurant and you have a special that's going, you can promote that via your website on email. And you can also do the same thing on social media. Finally, I would say that the important thing about e-commerce that we're seeing right now is the way that it allows you to pivot your business models in instances such as this. Again, we have a stay-home order in Michigan, so people can't, go to the barbershop. They can't go to dine-in restaurants. They can't go into clothing stores and retail stores. When you have an e-commerce platform, what it allows you to do is come up with creative ways to continue selling your services. If you specialize in specific products in retail, then it's pretty straightforward. You have an online home where people can visit, they can purchase your products online, and they can be delivered to them. If you have a business such as a restaurant, what's been really interesting and awesome about this time in a way is that you're seeing people use e-commerce platforms to kind of pivot their business model. So I know like local bakeries like Sister Pie and restaurants like Mero or Rocco's Italian Deli have kind of transformed into mini neighborhood grocers. And so what they're doing is using their websites and their e-commerce platforms to sell small boxes of groceries that have fresh produce and fresh items that they would normally be using to, develop menu items and serve for their dining service. But now they've been able to switch and still sell those products and those items that they have to the community, both filling the need of having access to fresh food, which we're seeing is kind of getting dwindled down in some larger grocers, and also being able to still make a dollar, make some revenue off of the products and kind of the business model that they already have by making a soft switch. A lot of restaurants are also using their e-commerce platforms to take menu items that are really popular and sell what they're calling menu kits. So instead of going into a restaurant and purchasing their signature burger or, turkey wing plate, they're saying, we're going to give you every single item. Here's a recipe card. We're going to sell it to you online. You can either pick it up for no contact delivery, or if we have the ability, we'll deliver it to you. And that's something that e-commerce makes incredibly easy, because someone's able to come online to your website, learn more about what you're offering in that instance, and then you're able to sell it for them. Finally, a really great opportunity that businesses have been taking advantage of in the service industry. So thinking about hairstylists, barbers, massage therapists, estheticians, anyone where, your business is really based on a person-to-person service. A lot of businesses are now using their websites and e-commerce platforms to sell gift cards or to provide prepayments for future services. So if you have a customer that comes in every single month for a specific service, people are being able to leverage these platforms and the ability to make transactions within them to work with those customers to create prepayments, which again is helping them continue to bring in some of that revenue, continue to kind of keep their businesses afloat while they may not be able to work in operation. So I would say that those are the benefits of having an e-commerce platform when it comes to kind of enhancing the services that you're providing and pivoting your business models at times like this. The last piece that I wanted to touch on today is some resources that are available for small businesses right now in Detroit that are, seeking to either build an e-commerce platform or build their website or kind of enhance that service. The first one is something that was mentioned by both Angela and Ian. It is the Digital Detroit Small Business Website Accelerator. I'm actually going to share my screen right now so that I can show you guys kind of what the opportunity looks like. So this opportunity is powered by the City of Detroit, Quicken Loans, Rebrand Cities, and Brand Camp, which is a really awesome business accelerator if you ever have a chance to interact with them. But essentially what they're doing is providing some really awesome web development guidance and services for small businesses in Detroit. So the application is due on, on April 30th, so this Thursday. But basically for applicants that are accepted into the cohort, they'll receive a small business website and 3 months of hosting, which is awesome. They will be provided with guided website development workshops. There will be virtual office hours, and then they'll also have some virtual workshops and webinars that really kind of give anyone a booster into kind of building this online presence and keeping it going in terms of e-commerce. This page also has the application on here, which just kind of asks some basic questions. But this accelerator will be really awesome for any business that is really starting to get their feet wet in terms of building a website, using these digital platforms. And I will send out that link after this, and I'll also make sure to put the link for the application in here once I'm done with the presentation. Finally, I just wanted to mention 2 more local small business kind of support institutions that provide a myriad of resources when it comes to kind of developing both your marketing strategy and your digital platform. The first is TechTown, which is located on Wayne State's campus in Midtown, but also has a pretty robust website at techtown.com. The cool thing about TechTown Detroit is that they kind of segment their business support resources to really fit your needs. And they also work with a list of kind of vetted consultants that can help you meet whatever needs you would need in terms of building your website and e-commerce strategy and platform. The second institution that I want to shout out is the Build Institute. I think if you're in business in Detroit, you've probably heard of them, but They always have an awesome list of resources, programs, and services that can really help you, especially when it comes to marketing, which website development usually is bundled into that. And then finally, shout out to Startup Space, who was presented on by Angela today. They also have a robust amount of resources that can really point you in the right direction. And in addition to that, I'll shout out the MABA newsletter, which went out today. It's chock full of resources, guidance, people that can point you in the right direction. And actually, on the MABA business page on Facebook, we have a webinar from earlier this month, which also included resources from Detroit Economic Growth Corporation, City of Detroit, and some other institutions that are doing some work to really support small businesses in their development. So I think that's all I have for today. I'm going to work with Ian to write some of this up. I also want to shout out that ECN and MABA are currently working on some services and resources that we can use and share to support all of our MABA businesses and friends as we kind of pivot and transition during this time. And that will include e-commerce support as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Camille. I forgot to mention the stuff that was in the works, but definitely excited about that to see as that develops and to share that with everyone too. So thank you so much for sharing all of that wonderful information about e-commerce and the different resources. Again, I'll wait for a little bit for questions. Maybe I'll see if I can pull up a Jeopardy song a little bit per Matt's request.
Oh, while we're waiting, I do want to shout out the ECN 36th annual meeting.
Yes.
Usually it's in person, but this year we are going to take it virtual. It will be a mix of a Zoom webinar and a live stream on Facebook taking place this Thursday, April 30th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. We're really excited. We're going to have some awesome speakers, including Abdul El Sayed, who was one of the 2018 Democratic Michigan gubernatorial candidates. He was also the former director of the Detroit Health Department. We'll have State Senators Stephanie Chang and then also the always awesome Joanne Watson. All of our speakers will be touching on health equity, really looking at how COVID-19 and the fallout from it is related to existing public health issues in our community. Discussing how we can kind of tackle these issues from a policy standpoint, and then also looking at how we can tackle them from a community activism standpoint as well. And you can find the invitation or the event for that on the Eastside Community Network Facebook page if you search the Eastside Community Network. I will also drop that in the chat box as well as our flyer for the meeting, which includes some more information on how to join.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Camille. I do see we have a question in the chat from Maureen, and it is, has any type of Eastside restaurant directory been put together reflecting new hours/days/menu for those places optioning to remain open? At this time, I would say no, though I will say the city of Detroit has been really good about putting together a directory of open businesses, and so I'll go ahead and find that web link and drop that in there, but it's definitely a good idea and something that I'd love to talk to JEI and Eastbourne Development Corporation about. So thank you for the idea. And yeah, I think that's something that we can definitely put together. Absolutely. Okay. Yes, I'll touch base with my two contacts at JEI and at Eastbourne Development Corporation, and we'll get going on that. Hopefully we'll have something put together for you by the end of the week. Thanks so much for your question, Maureen. I appreciate it. Oh, okay, great. All right, we will touch base after the webinar then to get your help on that. Thank you so much. Okay, and a question from B. Anthony. For clients we work with, can you reiterate the free resources versus the paid resources? could you elaborate on your question a little bit more, B. Anthony? I'm not sure if I understand it. I know a lot of the resources that we've touched on tonight are free or free to apply for. I would say pretty much any of like the more like basic or intro services, like obviously TechTown's open office hours, they have a variety of different folks that can talk to you about different things. But I would say once you get into like kind of beyond like the surface level and a little bit more in depth is when you start to when folks start to ask for money. But I would say there's quite a bit of free resources out there, free resources to apply for before you would actually have to pay someone. I'm not sure if that answers your question or not, and if it doesn't, I'm happy to elaborate more, but that's my kind of initial response to that. Thanks for dropping the link in for the City of Detroit Open Businesses, Sam, and Camille for the 36th annual ECN meeting. Let me see. Okay, and I think that is it for questions for right now. Any other questions before we move on to our next panelist? Go ahead and drop that in, and I'll just wait another 30 seconds to a minute. And I think I got it queued up now. Can everyone hear that?
Ooh, the extended version.
I couldn't pause it fast enough. Anyway, okay, let's see. Okay, yeah. So, okay, awesome. That sounds good, B. Anthony. Yeah, and anything I can do to help as well. Oh, you were talking about specifically for the e-commerce support. Okay. Yeah, I would say TechTown is definitely a good place to go. Camille, I don't know if you wanted to elaborate on that any further in terms of the free resources versus the resources that cost money.
I think that all of the resources mentioned are going to have a mix for things like the Small Business Website Accelerator and really anything that's an accelerator, which I love to point businesses toward. Those are almost always going to be free and also have a really great value add, which is either helping you come up with some type of program through development, developing a strategic plan, or in the instance of this specific accelerator, developing a website. When it comes to TechTown, they kind of have tiers or different layers of services. And so they have small business office hours, which is essentially kind of coming to them for, surface advice on, issues, and then they can help connect to you with more specific resources. Some of them will be resources that you'll pay for. Some of them will be connecting with resources that are provided through, the SBA or DEGC, which can be a loan, can be a grant, can be something kind of in between, or something like Koba Detroit, which might be an investment. And so what I would probably suggest is sending any clients that you work with to entities like TechTown or Build Institute with kind of a list of, the different things they can get more information. What are the free resources that I can access? What are the paid resources that I can access? What are the subsidized resources that I can access so that they can get some really significant help? But each of those groups, and I'm sure Startup Space as well, usually can give you some really good advice on where to go depending on your needs and your budget.
Awesome, thank you, Camille. And yes, and I'm glad that B. Anthony's on this call. He, along with Margot Dalal and a great board of folks, run an organization called the Detroit Community Wealth Fund that provides support for businesses that are interested in opening up as a co-op or existing businesses that want to transition over to a cooperative form of ownership. So we are hoping to, we were planning on doing an event with them in May, and we're hoping that we can move that to a webinar format similar to this. So definitely go and check out their website. I don't know if you want to drop a link to that in the chat, B. Anthony, but for anyone that's interested in, cooperative form of business operation, definitely check them out. And I know they had several training programs last year for that. I'm not sure if they're planning on doing those virtually this year, but yeah, really great grassroots organization supporting businesses in Detroit. So, and then I think you dropped a few links in here, Camille, in terms of, so you've got the Digital Detroit Small Business Website Accelerator. We had another question about the services for web developing. So any other links that you can drop in there, Camille, as it relates to businesses setting up like e-commerce platforms or enhancing their e-commerce platforms, that would be awesome. And okay, thanks. And then I'll give one more shout out for questions before we move on. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Matt Rolling, who's going to talk a little bit about the financial and account aspects of reorganizing and restructuring during COVID-19. So Matt, whenever you're ready, you can begin.
Yeah, thanks. No, I appreciate it. It's really an honor to be here with all of you today. From my own personal experience, during the last recession, I worked as a restructuring and turnaround consultant for about 4 years. So I spent a lot of time working with business owners trying to deal with their inability to pay debt or payroll, and to try and find creative ways of helping them fix their businesses. A couple of years ago, I tried my hand and I ran a tech startup for about 1.5 years myself that ultimately failed. So I really have a lot of empathy for what you're going through right now and how scary it can feel. It feels like you're kind of standing in a wind tunnel. And a lot of you, I imagine, have probably idled your businesses because of the lockdown. And you know, before this call, the panelists and I, we were kind of joking about how it feels like we're kind of getting to this acceptance phase of it. The thing is, you know, slowly but surely, we're starting to see some light at the end of the tunnel, and we're starting to finally get to the point where, we can realistically imagine a day when our businesses will be able to reopen. The tool that I want to share with you today is called the 13-week cash flow forecast. During normal times, you don't have to worry about managing your cash that tightly, because every month, every quarter, your business is generally going to be strong enough to survive those periods of time without you being really worried about whether or not you're going to make it. But during this crisis, all bets are off, and cash is life for a business. One of the first things that we learned when I was becoming a consultant in that field was out of cash, out of credit, out of business. Nowadays, we're kind of all in it together. And so, your employees are feeling the pinch, your customers are feeling the pinch, your lenders are feeling the pinch, your landlord's feeling the pinch. And so the sooner you can lay out your own financial future, it makes it a lot easier to have those conversations. So like Angela and others did, I'm going to share my screen right now. Okay, hopefully everyone can see that. So, and I imagine that Ian will be able to share this tool with everyone. It's just a simple Excel template. I also realize that just the word Excel might give some people heartburn, so but it's really not too bad. So these are the instructions right here, right? The power of this tool is that it gives you maximum runway to predict when you might run out of cash, right? If it hits you out of the blue and you only have a couple of days or a week to prepare for something like this, it's just simply not enough time to deal with it, right? Earlier on this call, everyone's been sharing with you all these different resources when it comes to technical support and financial resources, but those resources don't just, appear out of nowhere. If you can give me 6 or 7 weeks to see when you might run out of money, then it's a lot easier, and you can really attack those resources. And you can, when you're dealing with people like Camille and Angela, you can say, hey, look, I need this now. This is why, right? Not only that, but when you are on a weekly basis keeping track of your cash, you're going to naturally bring more cash into your business, and you're going to do a better job of spending more wisely, and you're going to have better cash margins, right? So you're going to save money. You're going to hopefully make more money just by going through this exercise. So we actually have two files in here. We have one for your personal household and one for your business, right? Ideally, you have one checking account for each of them, maybe even at two different banks. But we know that for you, your financial affairs are very closely tied between what's going on at home and what's going on at the business. So if you just do one, it really doesn't tell you the whole story, right? So if I were you, and you do decide to use this tool, you can start by dropping in the historical amounts. And I know this is a week or two old, so bear with me, everything's changing in real time these days, right? But your starting point in these green squares is the amount of cash that's available to you in your checking account. On, you kind of have to pick a day and be consistent with it. I'd use Monday morning if I were you. And you just drop in that amount, right? And you start filling out the template, right? Any cell that's yellow is a calculation or a formula. You don't have to worry about it or touch it. It'll automatically populate, right? Imagine you had $1,000 on the morning of Monday, February 24th. It automatically populates, right? And now let's imagine maybe you have a partner that makes, I don't know, $500 a week just for fun, right? And so you can put that money out into the future to show additional income that your household might be bringing in, right? It's really important that you put the money in the week in which it either hits or clears the bank account, right? The more accurate and the more finely tuned you have, the better the forecast is going to work, right? All that you should need to fill this out are your credit card bills, your bank statements, right? And maybe some utility bills or maybe your Wi-Fi bill, your cell phone bill. But a lot of those things should show up on your bank statement or your credit card bills anyway, right? When it comes to these categories or captions, you can change them, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to call them, so that they match so that it better kind of speaks to your home and the money that you have coming in, right? Some of you might have unemployment insurance coming in right now. You can put that in other, right? Or some of you might have other side hustles to help support your business, and it's okay to put that money in here too, right? So you'll ultimately get to your total cash coming in. We left a couple weeks in the future. And then you'll put your money going out, right? Your mortgage or your rent, your DTE bill, gas, water, internet, etc., cell phones, car note, car insurance. And again, these are just suggested captions. You can ultimately use whichever ones you feel do the best job of showing what's going on in your home, right? And then ultimately, when you subtract in your cash in from your cash out, you're going to get to your weekly personal cash position, right? And this number is kind of, this is a really important figure, because the moment in the future that you see this number become negative, it's telling you that your household might run out of money, right? And so if that does happen to you, you shouldn't be nervous or afraid, because it just means that you're giving yourself a lot more time to deal with that problem before it comes to pass, right? So that row, right, you've got your cash out, and this is just simply the cash in minus the cash out. And then this one includes your bank amount, right? And then here in this blue row, if there's any extra cash that you contribute to your business, you have that surplus there if you want to inject that cash into your business, right? The business side of this is almost exactly the same, right? This is just a different account for your business. So there's a little bit of separation so you can focus on your household versus your business, right? It's the exact same exercise, you know, for about 4 or 5 or 6 weeks. Oh, I'm sorry, I did not mean to do that. Right, you fill out some historical data. This will help you understand how your business typically behaves, right? It'll give you a sense for what your sales have been during the crisis. It'll give you a sense for what your electricity bill has been like during the crisis, marketing, et cetera, whatever the costs are that, you know, are closely associated with your company. So you fill out those historical periods to help ground you and give you good benchmarks. You drop in your beginning, right? And you drop in your cash sales. It's really important that you show your cash sales net of any merchant or transaction fees you might have, right? When I get my payroll from my employer, they take out all those payroll taxes, right? If my salary is $1,000 a week, I'm not putting in $1,000, I'm putting in $678.22, right? Because that's the amount of money that I have free to me to spend on cell phone, rent, car note, etc. Some of you might have sales on account, or you might take deposits. It's really important that you put that note or that sale on account in the period when you think it's going to be collected, right? Because the whole point of this entire exercise is figuring out what your cash position looks like each week. And then you might bring in, you know, I think it was Angela was talking about all these opportunities for extra money, you know, SBA, TCF Bank, TechTown, DEGC, the list goes on, right? And then you might be putting some of your own money into the business as well. So we gave you a row for that. So you can show all of the total cash coming into the business. And then we gave you rows where you can drop in your payroll and your employee benefits, you know, insurance, unemployment insurance taxes, your occupancy, utilities, data, leases, equipment leases, inventory, supplies, software subscriptions, taxes, on and on and on. And again, you can go nuts with this. Whatever, if you want to use your QuickBooks and you want to use categories that look more like what you use in QuickBooks, that's okay. My only suggestion is that you keep the yellow where it is, because those are formulas. It'll just make your life simpler, right? And my other suggestion is that, you know, you do this weekly until we're through the crisis, right? Because once you lay out all this information, you know, you might have a lot of questions, right? I have $20,000 in customer deposits. What should I do with it? My landlord's really taking a hard line with my lease. How should I approach them, right? I'm not really sure whether or not I can hire back the same number of employees, right? Once you do this, you can play with all those questions, right? And you can say, well, what happens if I give back $20,000 in customer deposits next week? Oh, it means that I'm running out of cash in 3 weeks. Okay, probably shouldn't give back the $20,000, right? Okay, you know, my landlord's taking a really hard line with me. If he or she cut my lease payment or my rent payments in half, would I be able to make it through till June 1st? Yeah. Oh my gosh, if they cut my lease payments in half, I'd be able to make it. Then you can go to your landlord and say, look, you can play hardball with me and I might have to close or leave, or you can work with me and I'm probably going to make it, right? That's really the power of this tool, and why it's so important for all of you to at least give it a try. Is it's going to help give you a really quantitative support for making your business decisions during this crisis. So that is really the gist of it. And I know I went over it pretty quickly. This is about a 40-minute presentation. but you can only talk about finance and Excel spreadsheets for so long before you lose people. So I'm going to stop for now and give folks a chance to ask questions if you want to.
All right, thank you so much, Matt. So again, I'll give folks a little bit of time to go ahead and drop your questions in the chat box. And I should mention too, once all of our panelists have had a chance to share their information, we will have a Q&A session at the end where folks can actually either like share their screen if they're on video chat, or can just like call in if they're on the phone and ask questions that way. But we're at least using the chat function for those purposes for now. So again, another 30 seconds to a minute. I'll put the Jeopardy music on again, and then we will, if there are no questions, we will move on with our last panelist. Okay, not seeing any questions at this point. We will go ahead and move on to Samantha Hall at Projects and People. Sam, whenever you're ready, you can begin.
Thank you so much, Ian.
Absolutely.
I love all the Zoom humor. I love the Jeopardy music. It's relaxing me. I'm Samantha Hall. I'm the Engagement and Projects Coordinator for Projects and People. I'd first like to thank Ian for the panel invitation. And I'd also like to thank everyone else that is pooling their resources together to service our small business community. Our founder and CEO of Projects and People, James Fegan, he sends his regards. One of the largest ways that Projects and People is helping support small businesses in our community is by partnering with NEI to develop a storytelling campaign called In Good Co. In Good Co is designed to inspire and motivate entrepreneurs, no matter where you are in business, from the upstart phase all the way to the active entrepreneurial phase. I will drop our website there. It's www.ingoodcodetroit.com. With the storytelling campaign, all of the stories, they're not only inspirational, but they're realistic. All of the stories acknowledge some of the hurdles that are involved with business ownership and how to navigate. And we also tell people how to navigate around those obstacles. From whether it's loans or grants or branding, website development, accounting, etc. As Angela stated, we're also working very hard to bring up-to-date resources to the COVID-19 resource page, and that can also be accessed through the In Good Co resource page. I'm not going to share my screen, but I will tell you that we have wonderful stories there. We also have some up-to-date stories coming from our highlighted entrepreneurs about how they're coping with this COVID-19 pandemic that we're in, how their businesses have had to pivot, how everybody obviously has had to go online. There are a couple stories there from Fame, who is the owner of 313. He tells us a lot about what he's had to do to maintain sales and just kind of pivot his business. So you can definitely go there and listen to that. Another thing you can do is follow us on Instagram, In Good Co Detroit on Instagram. We want you to go on there, listen to the stories, share the stories, and stay connected with us as we release more stories. Also, if there are any business owners who have any stories that they'd like to tell, get in contact with us through the In Good Co. Detroit page. There's a contact us page. And hopefully we'll be able to start sharing more stories of business owners right here in Detroit. And that's about it.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Sam. So again, I will ask if there are any questions for Sam. And so give it another 30 seconds to a minute, and then we will move on to the Q&A portion of the evening. All right. So before we begin the Q&A, I thought of a fun question that I could have each of the panelists ask. And I thought of this because I've been seeing people post all weekend the different purchases that they've been making online from different Detroit small businesses. So I'm not asking for a comprehensive list by any means, but what I guess what's been one of the purchases that you've made to support Detroit small businesses, or your favorite purchase? And I'm happy to kick it off because the thing that I love food, so and I love Pizzaplex in Southwest Detroit, which I've lived in Detroit for almost 5 years now and spent most of my time in Southwest. So I was able to get their pizza kits and make those, and they were absolutely delicious. So you can also get bread. They have beer and wine on their site. So yeah, definitely a great order and great investment. And I need to do a little bit more searching on the Eastside for some ways to support our businesses over there. But that was one that popped up. So definitely check out Pizzaplex if you haven't. And then whoever else wants to jump in.
So well, first of all, I have been like very paranoid to like leave very far away from my house and go into big spaces and be around a bunch of people because I don't know how everyone's using their PPE or not. So Marrow and Sister Pie, which are in my neighborhood, have transitioned into being small grocers and have been like implementing all this stuff. So I've been able to get like some cool locally like grown produce and some pretty good meat cuts from Marrow. So that's been cool. And I went to Sister Pie and got some comfort food to get me through these hard times.
Absolutely. That's awesome.
So my favorite purchase has been, one, because I have 3 children, paper plates. And 2, one of the things I love doing is online shopping in the middle of the night. So of course, I went to the 313 store, their website, and purchased a nice windbreaker, and I purchased a jogging suit. And what I really loved about it was that Fame, he came and he hand delivered it to my house, because I guess people are having trouble, getting things through the mail, or he's having trouble getting things to people. So he actually hand delivered it, rang my doorbell and gave it to me. So that was actually super fun. I got to buy something. I got something in the mail, and I got a visit from a local celebrity. So that was always fun.
That's awesome.
So last week, I contacted my hairstylist, and her name is Kaylin Styles. You can follow her at Salon KLS. Yes, I'm her biggest fan. She started my locks in November. So this is a month 6 locks or something. Anyway, I bought some of her hair oil, and she is located in Metro Detroit, and she delivered the hair oil to my house. This is some hair oil that I abide by, and I probably need to use it today, but she has some really high quality products, and I even got my boyfriend using this stuff, and my mama, and anyone else. So shout out to Kaylin, and I definitely made it a real purpose to support her during this time, and all small businesses like her. I even been sharing any funding links that we get that comes through my email. I'll text it to her. I'll text it to her and other people I know like her. I also have a groomer that comes to my house to groom my dog. She hasn't been working, so I've even been checking on her since I can't support her directly. So that's how I've been also doing like a in-kind support as well.
Yeah, I think, Ian, I definitely appreciated the pizza, to make your own pizza kit from the Plex as well. You know, I mean, yeah, you know, I've gotten Yum Village and Aima and of course Bucharest, but I think before this crisis, I live across the street from Lafayette Foods, the grocery store in Lafayette Village, or Lafayette Park rather. And I used to, you know, 6 months ago, I'd be like, you know, it's not Whole Foods or whatever. And, you know, I have a definitely new level of gratitude and humility for living across the street from a neighborhood grocery store that I didn't have, you know, a couple months ago. So I definitely want to give a shout out to Lafayette Foods and everything they've done to help feed our neighborhood during this crisis. So.
Yeah, Lafayette Foods has been amazing. And so the first place I lived in Detroit was Lafayette Park. And I love being able to, just walk over to the grocery store, do my shopping. They've always got, you know, good Motown music on, a really good selection for a small grocery store, different things. So yeah, awesome. Okay, well, I guess now we can move into our Q&A. So again, you can still drop any questions you'd like in the chat, or if you do have, you know, if you want to share your favorite Detroit small business purchase, you can also drop that in the chat, or links to any other resources. And then you can also, in the Q&A function, you can raise your hand and Camille can give you like access to either share your video chat or your audio to ask questions. And looks like we've got, absolutely. Thanks for joining us. Little shout out from the Detroit Artist Test Lab, which is where ECN records their podcast, our podcast Authentically Detroit with Donna and Orlando. Glenn's great, so thanks for the shout out, Glenn. We appreciate it. And turn the Jeopardy music on again one more time, and wait for questions. All right. Thanks for joining us, Paul. Okay. So I'm not seeing anything in the chat. Camille, is there anyone raising their hands that you can see?
Sorry, nope.
Okay. I don't see anyone that's dropped any questions in the Q&A function.
B. Anthony suggested sharing inspiring stories of resilience in the chat just now.
That's a great idea. Did you want to kick us off at all, B. Anthony, or did you have a story that you wanted to share, or if any of our panelists do as well? I'd love to hear it.
I mean, Samantha, can you share James' wife's the new thing she's working on? Maybe, I don't know if you're.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Flower bean.
Yeah, can you talk about that?
Yes and no. From what I know about it, just from she and I just discussing about it, it's just a place for I don't know if it's just for women or just for people in general, to just come and get some healing. You know, we go through a lot as adults, and a lot of times we don't make it to a mental health professional, or we might not make it to a safe space where we can talk about the things that we're going through. And so that's a space that she has curated wonderfully, because that's her thing. And I'm pretty sure that let me give you guys the Instagram. It's called Flower Bean. Make sure yes, it's flowerbean.co. And it says, we're on a mission to encourage community, kindness, and healing every single day. So I was spot on. I don't know if she's still doing it, but she's selling as a fundraising campaign. She's selling her Breathe sweatshirts. You can go and you can purchase one, and 100% of the proceeds will be donated to local organizations working toward conquering domestic violence. So share that, follow them on Instagram, and be one of the people working toward helping domestic violence victims out.
And could you share links in the chat with us, Sam?
Yes, I will.
Thank you so much. And it looks like we've got B. Anthony on, so we'll turn it over to him to share a story of resilience. Thank you for joining us, B. Anthony.
Sure. Peace, everybody. Thank you to the panelists for offering your resources, and we'll definitely be sharing out the things that you've offered here. B. Anthony, I work with several different organizations that, namely the Detroit Community Wealth Fund. So a lot of work around cooperatives and supporting workers and being empowered to be owners, and having control and stake in the economy. And so one of our loan projects that we are working with is DTAC, Detroit Textile Artists Collective. And one of the pivots that they've made is they actually started making masks. And so there's a lot of groups that have started their own operations, and Margot specifically has been working with them to get their supply chain to make sure that we get the manufacturers, support in that way. And there's so many stories like that are happening, and I think they're just worth sharing. There's a whole mutual aid network for folks on Facebook. Many of you might be aware of that. There's a COVID-19 Michigan community COVID-19 response. And so there's a lot of time banking. There's a lot of resource sharing happening through there. And just like really, these moments are really the moments that allow us to, kind of force us to jar us to think about different ways of just thinking about value, as business owners, but even before that, as just people in society. So I'll leave it there. So many more stories of resilience, but I think that it's good to know these resources are out here. And if anybody has, I don't know if some of these resources are might be a little newer, but if anybody has any examples of folks that are like taking advantage of these resources or any other resources, it might be good to hear that as well at some point. Check.
Awesome. Thank you so much, B. Anthony. So one thing I did see was TechTown has slowly but surely been sharing some stories of businesses that have been supported through their 2 different rounds of grant funding. And one of the things I saw their CEO, Ned Stabler, post today was a card from one of the children of one of the business owners that were supported through the grant program. So it was really cool to see that they, like made a little card to thank the folks at Tech Town. So just a, small but meaningful way to, thank Tech Town for supporting their parents' business. Okay, let's see. So one question that we had was, do I need to register anywhere to receive the Zoom info? If you are on the call, we should have contact information for you, specifically an email address, and we'll go ahead and send out the webinar recording and these resources after we conclude here. And another question was from Nawi, who I've been talking to last couple of days in terms of marketing resources. He owns a clinic on Mac near Cadieux. So I've been trying to work with him and help him access some of the different SBA and PPP resources and things like that. So I was looking through our spreadsheet, and I'm sure some of these kind of different spots where the resources are being like pooled or collected or synthesized, like with Startup Space, have them, but I don't know if anyone is aware of specific resources marketing wise. And I know we talked about e-commerce, but maybe if there was anything else that we hadn't yet chatted about in terms of marketing resources for small businesses. So Angela or Samantha, if anyone else wants to chime in on that.
Hey, Angela speaking. I can chime in. So I will show my screen just to make it a little bit more interactive and provide that context. Again, the link to this particular site is www.startupspace.app/NEI/recovery. Yes, long, but very accessible. And we'll make sure that this link is shared out. So what I did here was use the search by topic, and I typed in marketing, and 0 grants and loans popped up, but there is a first step resource. So if you are located in Oakland County, you can access that right here. And this is for anyone in that Oakland County region. And again, there are Wayne County specific resources. And when you think about the digital program that the city of Detroit is starting, also there is a webinar from SCORE, the organization as a whole. So that mentoring organization, SCORE National, is holding a webinar on marketing advice to combat economic pandemic. And then there is some recommended content from Tech Town. So in thinking about marketing and where you can find just a pool of information in addition to Google Sheets that ECN has, you can also use Startup Space to find that. And this is updated daily, if not weekly. And again, in collaboration with Sam, who's on the call at Projects and People in 313 Creative.
Sam, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
I was just going to say I was going the same way that Angela was going. I was just going to direct them. So the Startup Space COVID-19 page is accessible 2 ways. It's accessible through the actual Startup Space website, or you can get there through the In Good Co page. In Good Co Detroit page. So the way she just went in and she just typed in marketing, or you could type in accounting, or you could type in anything that you may think that you may need. And 9 times out of 10, there is something that will come up for you, either as a first step resource or in the way of an upcoming event or some recommended content. So you can always get access to any type of resources, no matter what the genre is, through those sites, through the In Good Co or the Startup Space website.
Awesome. Thank you, Sam. One thing I did want to mention for anyone that is currently watching on Facebook Live, if you can send me your email if you do want a copy of the recording, the Zoom recording outside of Facebook. My email is imccain@ecn-detroit.org. And I'll go ahead and drop it in a comment too on the Facebook Live recording on our MABA Detroit Facebook page. All right, let's see. So any other questions? I'm not sure if we have anyone that's raising their hand. I don't see any questions in the Q&A. I don't see any in chat. Did anyone have any additional questions? One thing I did think to share while we're waiting, okay, and Camille says no hands raised at this time. So is I know, unfortunately, a lot of small businesses specifically missed out on the initial round of PPP funding. Or the Paycheck Protection Program. There is a new round of funding that Congress approved, and we do know of some specific lenders and organizations that are ready and able to assist small businesses. So bank-wise, we've confirmed with both Huntington and Comerica banks. You know, if you do bank with them, they're more than happy to help you get on and process your application. And then other organizations, PayPal, QuickBooks, and Square are three other organizations that are more than willing to help you with that application. So even if you started and get stuck at some point, or if you're just kind of overwhelmed initially, it's definitely, those are five different organizations that you can go to for support. Matt, I don't know if you wanted to touch on any of the other like funding things with the SBA loans or PPP or anything like that, but.
I don't know. I mean, the first round was I think botched is a generous word.
Yeah.
You know, I think you're going to always get better traction with these local programs like from MEDC, DEGC, TechTown, et cetera, because they're going to be much more tailored to your needs than these federal programs, which are very blunt instruments that were rolled out on a fly. Trying to serve the entire country. So I'm sure it's, I don't know. So hopefully we'll all make it through this stronger and, wiser.
So just checking, yep, okay, I'm still on. Just checking Facebook real quick, and thank you for that, Matt. I'm just checking to see if we had any questions on here. I'm not seeing any other questions. I'll ask one more time for the folks that we have on the Zoom webinar. If you want to drop anything in the chat, feel free. And if not, we will go ahead and wrap up for the evening. So I know I said it was the last time, but who gets tired of hearing the Jeopardy theme, right? One more time. Okay.
And I could reiterate a resource for us to share that I think is worth sharing.
Absolutely.
So for those that are interested, or if you work with folks that are interested in worker ownership or co-ops and any type of community ownership of a business, this time is also a great time for planning. A lot of businesses have been kind of forced to use this time to pivot, as this has been the key word that we've been using today, to pivot and shift. And so on our website, you can schedule office hours. We're primarily a lender, but we also provide education and also training on how to transition your business. And if for those businesses that maybe pursuing going out of business, unfortunately, that is an opportunity for the workers to potentially even buy that business. And so that is a very important option for folks to consider as well. Like some people are using this opportunity as moments that have been holding down the fort for years, for decades, and saying, okay, this is just, I'm out. And it might be opportunity for a newer generation to come in and say, hey, we're gonna stick it out. And this might be opportunity for us to actually become owners. And so we can support with those resources. So DetroitCommunityWealthFund.org, and people can set up free office hours with us. And obviously they'd be digital for now. And we're definitely happy to support and connect to other resources like the ones that have been shared here. So thank y'all.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing those, and thanks for joining us, B. Anthony. I did drop the 3 links that we had in the spreadsheet from your organization, the Co-ops 101 presentation that you guys did, I think, a couple weeks ago, and then the office hours that you mentioned, a link to that, and then just kind of explaining what mutual aid is. And I think you may have alluded also to something else that I'm familiar with, but I'm not sure if a lot of folks are, and that's time banking. I could say what I know, but you probably have a little bit of a better understanding than I do, and also what time banks exist in Detroit. So would you mind telling us a little bit more about time banking?
Yeah, very briefly. Basically, again, I was saying this is an opportunity for us to really rethink what value is. And so for those people that are, many of us that are having hard times financially, being able to, you still have the skills and that knowledge is still with you. And so if you're a carpenter, if you're if you have a skill that is meaningful to someone else, time banking basically just means that I'm not going to do my best not to use time or bank in the definition, but you're basically swapping services with someone. It's like a barter, but you're keeping track of it in the unit of time. Unit is time. And so it's a way of mutual aid, and it's a way of being able to not cast people out or discount people because they don't have cash. They may still have a use of a very important skill. Maybe they know how to set up a garden. Food security is very important. And a plethora of other things that could, and usually it takes the form of a group coming together and starting a database and saying, we're going to share. And there's a lot of different softwares. I'm not the expert on it, but I definitely wanted to let people know that folks are using this time to rethink how they interact and how they share value with other folks in their community. And I think I could I could post a link to one of the time banks that I know, but I also know Margot has some other resources on this as well. She's been involved in that as well.
Yeah, the one I'm most familiar with is the Unity in Our Community in Southwest. But yeah. If there are any on the East Side, I'm not aware of them, but definitely would like to learn more if folks do know if there are any that exist on the East Side, or if we could look at getting one set up. But other than that, if anyone has any final thoughts that they'd like to share as we wrap up, I'm not seeing any questions in the chat or in the Q&A. So in respecting everyone's time, since it is after working hours, don't want to keep anyone on longer than we have to. But if any of our panelists want to chime in, final thoughts, things that you'd like to share, words of wisdom, anything like that. So. Okay, well, if we're all good, again, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us, our panelists for sharing all the different knowledge and resources, and for the folks that hopped on both here on Zoom as well as on Facebook Live. And the nice thing about this format is we can share it out and people can view it, obviously, even after now. So it's kind of evergreen, both on Facebook and then at the Zoom link once that's generated. So definitely share this with your networks. And as Camille mentioned, you can also check out the webinar we did a couple of weeks ago with other small business support resources as well. So with that, I'll go ahead and wrap up the webinar. I hope you all take care, be well, stay safe. And we will hopefully see many, if not all of you on Thursday for ECN's annual meeting. You're welcome, B. Anthony. I know you did kind of share a lot, so thank you so much. Hopefully next time we can have you on as an official panelist. All right, good night, everyone.
Thank you, and good night, everyone.
Thanks, Sam. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Camille.